2. Sources of history. Theme 1. The story of the past and evidences in history. Gear up. Which of these things do you think will give us clues about the past? Give reasons and comment this. Milestones. We will learn about the sources of history, archaeological sources, the role of archaeologists, literary sources, the role of historians, the importance of preserving the sources of history. What is this? Comment this. Sources of history. We have learned that the study of past events and lives of people in the past is called history. The information about the past comes from different objects left behind by the people of those times. Things such as coins, tools, artifacts, monuments, paintings, and written records gives us clues about the past. These are called the sources of history. These sources can be divided into archaeological and literary sources. War gems, artifacts means remains of human-made objects from the past. Archaeological sources. Archaeological sources of history may include remains of tangible material from the past. They can be divided into artifacts, coins, and monuments. War gems, tangible means can be touched and seen. Sites means areas or places where buildings, towns, or monuments stood in the past. Artifacts. Remains of different items such as tools, utensils, clothes, jewelry, and weapons from past are known as artifacts. These items are found at different sites. They are carefully collected and studied to understand the lifestyle of the people in the past. These artifacts give us clues about the kind of food people ate, the kind of work they did, and the kind of clothes worn by them. This is artifacts. Coins. Coins have different kinds of information marked on them. For example, the year in which they were issued. Therefore, coins from the past give us important clues about the ancient times. Some coins have images of kings and gods portrayed on them, while some contain religious symbols and legends. Such coins tell us about the kings who issued the coins and their rule. They also throw light on the art, religion, and the languages in using during earlier times. This is coins. Knowledge tricks. In India, cowrie shells were used as money before coins came into being. The earliest coins in India were made of silver and came to be known as punch-mark coin. Monuments. Monuments include buildings such as forts, palaces, tombs, statues, sculptures, and palaces of worship. Monuments tell us about the period in which they were built, the reason for building them, and the people who built them. Some important monuments in India are the Red Fort, Agra Fort, Hawa Mahal, Qutub Minar, and Jama Masjid. This is Agra Fort. Who are archaeologists? Archaeologists are the people who find and study and interpret archaeological sources. Some artifacts are found buried under the ground. These are excavated and carefully collected by archaeologists. They study these remains and find out about the people who made and used them. Archaeologists also help us understand the way people lived during those days. This is excavation site. Word gems interpret means clarify the meaning of something. Excavated means extracted while digging up the ground to find remains of the past. Belief means faith or trust in something or someone. Customs means practices or habits that were followed by a group of people or community. Literary sources, the written records of people in the past are known as literary sources. Some of these records were written about the people and their lives, important events, or about the rule of a king. They are written on animal skin, clay tablets, rocks, pillars, walls, and wood before the invention of paper. Literary sources can be divided into religious and non-religious texts. Religious text means the subject of this text is religion. Religious text tells us about the beliefs, manners of the people, and customs that were followed. Some such texts are the Vedas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the Upanishads. An example of a literary sources. Let us explore. Find out what epigraphy is and how it helps in learning about the past, and comment this. Non-religious text. This text deal with different subjects such as the rule and policies of a king and the lives of the common people. These also include the accounts of foreign travelers who recorded and described different places, their rulers, and the people. Some texts were written by the rulers themselves. Arthashastra, Baburnama, and Endika are some examples of such texts. Some important proclamations made by the ruler were also recorded on rocks, walls, and pillars. These are known as inscription. And inscription. Who are historians? Historians are the people who study literary and archaeological sources and help us learn about the past. They study various texts that are available and interpret them to learn about the past. Need to preserve sources of history. What James? Proclamation means an official statement about the important matters announced to the public. This is called proclamation. The sources of history help us to understand our heritage. We learn important facts about the events of the past and learn lessons from them. These sources also tells us about the achievement of the great people in history. Therefore, it is important to preserve these sources of history so that we do not lose the knowledge of the past. Historians and archaeologists are constantly trying to find out more about the past. They contribute in preserving historical sources. Our government is also taking a number of measures to protect valuable artifacts, manuscripts, monuments, and inscriptions which are of historical importance. We as citizens of our nation should always protect and preserve the sources of history. We must not destroy our monuments or artifacts and also make others aware of the importance of these sources of history. Treasure box. Sources of history. Archaeological sources means artifacts, coins, monuments. Literary sources, religious text, non-religious text. Preserving the sources of history is important. Who find archaeological sources? Archaeologists find, collect, and study the archaeological sources of history and interpret them. Who find literary sources? Historians study the written and archaeological records of history and help us to understand the past events. My watchtower. I have learned about the sources of history, yes or no or partially. Comment this. Archaeological sources and the role of archaeologists, yes or no or partially. Comment this. Literary sources and the role of historians, yes or no or partially. Comment this. The importance of preserving the sources of history, yes or no or partially. Comment this. Time to camp exercise. Choose the correct answer and fill the OMR box. Do this and comment this. Now exchange your book with your partner and check each and their answer using peer assessment. Do this. Fill in the blanks. Do this and comment this. State whether true or false. Answer these questions in the comment box. Picture study. Look at the picture and answer the question. Which type of historical sources are shown in the pictures? Comment this. Who do you think will study these historical sources? Comment this. What should we do to preserve these sources of history? Comment this. Activity zone. I do, I learn. With the help of your elders, find out the history of your family. Note down the things that help you learn about your family. History classify them into literary and archaeological sources. We do, we learn. In groups of 5, make a clay tablet using a pencil. Carve one rule of your classroom on it and let it dry and ask your teacher to place the tablet around the classroom. Your classroom now has inscription. Connect the dots. Language. Make a poster on the importance of preserving history. Give it a catchy slogan. Display it on your school notice board. Leave a mark, care and appreciation of cultural heritage. While visiting any historical monument, if you see anyone scribing on or scratching on the walls of the monument, politely request them not to do so. Explain the importance of preserving our historical sources to them. Click to know more. To read more about this topic, search up terms using the links given below. Sources of ancient Indian history, restoration of monuments in India.